Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the No Laying Up podcast. My name is DJ. This is a rare DJ and Randy episode. This is like season 3. We haven't really seen these two characters together. Let's see if they have any chemistry. Let's write them into they get trapped in a mountain house or something, Let's just see how they interact. Randy, how are you?
I'm great. I'm great. It's good to be here. I tried to go for anybody watching on the video. I tried to do a little Tanimal homage to the OG Tanimal, but no, things are really good, DJ. I think we're gonna have a fun show today.
I love it. Yeah, you got some nice kind of soft earth tones going. It really
Yeah.
suits you, I think. I enjoy it. Yeah, we do have a good show. Damn it. I think it's going to be a good one. We've got a lot of stuff to cover. On the LPGA, Jeeno Thitikul wins by one shot over Angel Yin. With a birdie at the last hole, she collects, I believe, the first ever $4 million first place
Woo,
prize in
a
the
lot
world
of
of
cash.
women's golf. A lot of cashish. At the RSM Classic, the PGA Tour season has mercifully come to an end with a Mav McNealy victory, first title of his career. Excited to talk about that. Excited for Mav. Then we're gonna do a little front nine, back nine. I've got the front nine. I've got some news and notes that I simply cannot get through the week without talking about with you, big. And then for the back nine, we're gonna throw it to our guy Connor Belcastro, who's done some writing for our website. He was out at the RSM all week. He is an aspiring professional golfer himself, aspiring tour player. He is a professional golfer. He's going to give us some news and notes and observations from being out at the RSM Classic. We'll do a little housekeeping, and then our guy KVV is back for one for the road. He's got a good one dialed up for that. But Randy, before we get into any of it, we've got some Titleist gear news from the RSM Classic. It's from our friends at Titleist. Your newest PGA Tour champion made a significant change this week, putting the new 2025 Pro V1 golf ball into competition for the first time. That's always exciting. New golf ball, and you go out and win the damn thing. He gained nearly 7 shots on the field tee to green while finishing second in proximity to the hole, including a dart to 5 feet at 18 for the winning birdie. In total, 74% of the field In total, 74% of the field teed up a Titleist this week at Sea Island, including 37 players who were already gaming the new 2025 Pro V1 or Pro V1X models. That always blows me away, just like how fast these guys are put their trust in Titleist. Like, yeah, it's kind of the most important piece of equipment I have. If you say the new one's better, great, I'll put it in right away. It's so yeah, half of those guys already kind of putting it in, which is awesome. So that's 16 players, Randy, in the new Pro V1, 21 in the new Pro V1X. And for comparison, the nearest competitor's total number of golf balls in play was 14. So I
How
think
about
that
that?
I think that sums it up. On the PGA Tour,
Honestly, that split between Pro V1 and Pro V1X is interesting to me. I would have guessed more people in just the regular Pro V.
it's the low spin boys are out there. We're represented well out on the PGA Tour.
We're legion. Yeah.
On the PGA Tour, at almost every level of competitive golf, more of the best players in the world choose the performance and consistency of Titleist golf balls. Head to Titleist.com to start the golf ball fitting process. Find out which golf ball model is right for you, and don't miss out on Titleist's new holiday 2 dozen pack. Save $10 on 2 dozen Pro V1, Pro V1X, or Pro V1X left dash. That's kind of the biggest no-brainer in history. Who's not going through 2 dozen golf balls over the course of
Oh,
the next year? Good,
I mean,
stock up,
for
big. They don't go bad.
yeah.
All right, sir. I'm gonna turn it over to you. Your ship here, Captain. We're gonna talk about
Mm.
the LPGA first. We had the season-ending CME Tour Championship. Please tell me all about it, big.
God, where do you start, huh? Where do you start? No, it was a great action today, and really all weekend it turned into a duel of sorts, Deej, between Angel Yin and Gino Thitikul. You mentioned up top that Gino Thitikul ended up winning. She nipped Angel Yin by a single shot. She collects $4 million first place prize. Angel Yin, for her efforts, runner up, gets $1 million. So some big money on the line this weekend down in Naples. And really, Deej, the story of the day, Titicum and Angel Yin, they both started at 15 under par. They were 3 shots clear to begin the round of their next closest competitor. Here's a stat for you, DJ. Chew on this one. Coming into Sunday, Angel Yin had made, according to the telecast, 498 feet of putts through her first
Not
three
all at
rounds.
once, though. Those were over, multiple
O-
holes.
Over, do you know what that average hold putt over 54 holes is?
A lot. Yeah, what is that, like
9.2
yeah.
feet, which, I mean, doesn't sound like a lot, but think about every hole finishes in a putt of at least 9 feet. It's pretty crazy. So Angel was riding a hot putter. Gino Thitikul was actually second in putting all week. This low key was a putting competition. Actually, Angel was bogey free. She would finish bogey free, but through 16 holes, Angel was 21 under par, 2 shots up. But I want to talk about the par 5 17th and then the par 4 18th specifically. And this is where Gino won the tournament. Two just gorgeous, towering iron shots. The one on 17 was from about 200 yards out. She hit it to, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 feet and cashed the eagle putt. Angel on the very gettable par 5 17th, she just missed the green left, kind of short sided herself, hit a pretty good chip up to maybe 6, 7 feet. And it was honestly, it was her worst putt of the day. She kind of a dead push right from the start, missed that one. So they're tied after 17 going to the 18th. And I thought the telecast did a really good job. Karen Stupples was out on the course with them, and Morgan Pressel and Terry Gannon were in the booth. And I forget who specifically made the point, but they're like, in this type of situation, it really pays to be the person going first. And so Titicum was first off the tee. She hits the fairway. Angel matches her, but that key approach shot, Jeeno Thitikul went first, and she hit a 5-iron from 178 yards to about 5 feet. Just stuffed it. Excellent iron shot under pressure. And so Angel has to follow suit. She hits a decent shot. It's not bad. Her iron goes to about 20 feet. And then Angel's putt, it honestly looked really good about the whole time, just slid past the hole. So she makes par. She finishes at 21 under, setting the stage for Gino. 5-foot birdie putt to win $4 million, and never a doubt, right in the heart. So really, really fun ending. This was the Tour Championship, the last official tournament on the LPGA Tour this calendar year. They do have the joint Grant Thornton coming up in a few weeks. But as far as the actual LPGA Tour season, this puts a bow on things. DJ, I think we start right here with Jeeno Thitikul. I just want to go over a few stats. She's 21 years old. She's from Thailand, if people aren't aware. She's currently ranked 7th in the world. I don't know if she might jump a spot or two with this win. We will see tomorrow. But I want to talk about what she's done the last few years, okay? And not necessarily on the winning side of it, because I do think that will come. But this win today was her second win of 2024. Her first individual title. She and Ronning Yin had teamed up earlier this year to win the team LPGA event. This is the fourth win of Jeeno Thitikul's career. And it's almost weird to say this, but it's like that doesn't seem like a lot for her, because her floor is, I honestly think she has the highest floor of anybody in golf right now.
What
This
makes you
is,
say that? Because I feel like I don't
yeah,
watch as much LPGA as you do, and I've never happened to time it up with a week where she's running away, but I see her name all the time. By the way, change your name if you're not watching a lot of LPGA golf and you feel like you're having a stroke. You're not wrong. It used to be a Thai Titicum. Uh, just I feel like that can always be, always needs to be pointed out. But what is about her game that impresses you so much, or how does she do it?
she's just really good. And I say that in like the truest sense possible. So I think there are a few ways we could go about this. Let me pull up her KPMG Insights, okay, which is like the strokes gained
Mhm.
stats on the LPGA Tour. She ranks second this year heading into this week, but I think she'll finish second to Nelly Korda. And so Gino gains on average 2.3 shots against the field each round. But I think what makes her great, DJ, to answer your question, her shots gained tee to green, she is plus 1.05 per round, which puts her just outside the top 10. For comparison's sake, Nelly's at plus 1.52, which is like fifth on the LPGA Tour. So she's a really good ball striker, okay? She's maybe not like the best ball striker, at least she wasn't this year, but she's a very good ball striker. And then she complements it. Her putting is she picks up 1.05 strokes putting each round as well, which ranks second on the LPGA Tour. And so this is where, like, how does her game vary from Nelly Corda, right? Well, Nelly is gaining 0.57 shots putting per round. And so Gino's almost double that this year. And with ball striking, that is like almost on par with Nelly. And so it's just a very well rounded game. She has a great demeanor. She never really seems flustered. And that plays out in, like, she is a top 10 machine. This is her 8th consecutive top 10 finish this weekend. This streak has started since after the Women's Open Championship. On the year, Jeeno made 17 starts. She's got 12 top 10s. And if you go back to the start of 2023, so over 2 full seasons, she's made 38 starts on the LPGA Tour and has finished in the top 10 25 times. And so I get back to, she's only won twice in that span. She didn't win in 2023, and she's won twice. So it's this weird kind of like, she is so good and she is always on the front page of leaderboards, that it's starting to be like, okay, we're just all waiting for her to like really start winning tournaments. And I think a win like this, with the pressure that comes along with such a big purse and just the way she went about it, I mean, going eagle birdie to win by 1, I just feel like, as we look ahead to 2025, Jeeno Thitikul is somebody that could win many times. So it's exciting. I think she's a great winner. Obviously, Lydia Ko and Nelly are 2 big names that have enjoyed excellent seasons. Lydia actually shot 63 today. She finished solo 3rd. She was 17 under par. And Nelly, good week, tied for 5th, 15 under par. Kind of seems like, yeah, okay, whatever.
What's wrong with Nelly?
But she caps the season, which she won 7 times in 16 starts. She won a major. She was part of the winning Solheim Cup team. She had wrapped up LPGA Player of the Year. She led the tour in strokes gained. She just got a spot in Sports Illustrated Swimsuit Edition. She won $4.5 million in official money. So, like, Nelly had a good year, and I'm curious what she's going to do next year as an encore.
I want to go back to Jeeno just for a second, because as you were kind of talking about that, I'm trying to, it can be kind of trite, I think, to compare the women's game to the men's game all the time. But I think just with my viewing habits and probably the viewing habits of a lot of the people that listen to this podcast, sometimes that's the easiest framing mechanism. And so when you throw out,
Sure.
plus 2.3 strokes gained per round, that can, like, people can kind of glaze over a little bit when they hear those numbers. But the comp on the men's side, and I know it's not apples to apples because there's probably not quite as much depth on the women's side as there is on the men's side, but like, that's Xander Schauffele essentially, right? And when you're
Yeah.
talking about a player who's like, man, they're pretty young, they have all the tools, they do everything well, I don't really get why they're not just winning quite as much. Like, that's every box you're kind of going down is where I'm like, this sounds a lot like Xander. And we kind of saw what he did over the past year. So maybe that could be what we're in for next year,
I think that's a perfectly apt comparison.
especially
I
compared
think,
to Scotty's and like to Nelly's Scotty, right?
yes, I think Gino thus far kind of fits that Xander profile where, like, I don't know, Xander's sneaky long, right? I think
Yeah,
his distance
especially
always
this year.
kind of creeps up on you. Gino's the same way. She's one of the longer. She's not the longest, but she has plenty of length when she needs it, and she just does everything like really well. And I think that's a great comp. Nelly and Scotty, they were so intertwined this year with the win streaks and the amount of wins that each had, that, yeah, I think people could absolutely think of Xander and Gino. And the upshot for Gino is, like I said, women's golf, the ages are, I don't exactly know, like, the curve, right, when we talk about player ages, but, like, she's 21 years old, and it just seems like over the next, I don't know, 5 years, like, you picture a tour with Nelly and Gino and, Ronning Yin, who I didn't mention, but she finished solo 4th. She had a great year this year. She's a 21-year-old major champion from China. Like, I do think the women's game is in a fun place with, like, really good big names, and they're all playing like really good golf. So
And just like
fun stuff.
heavyweight venues coming up as well, as they always tend to have on the major side as well. So I'm with you, big. Hey, let me ask you
Yeah.
this: were you mad as hell about this Angel Yin drop? It's all I'm seeing in our Slack.
Who was leading that charge?
TC, if you can believe
Ah,
that or not.
TC,
Yeah,
TC, yeah. I'll tell you what, the TV angles made it look like not a great drop, and for anybody that wasn't watching, in the beginning of her third round, so Saturday morning, I believe it was the fourth hole, Angel hit an approach shot, didn't appear particularly close, flew left, landed in a pond, kind of off the side of the hole, and I think from the angle that we saw on TV, everybody was pretty surprised at where she was dropping, which was like a lot closer to the green than it would have seemed. Almost like green side in a sense, where it looked like, man, that ball crossed pretty close after contact. And at least again, from the TV angle, it never really appeared to like recross. So I don't know, Deej. You tell me honestly, because they asked Angel about it in her post round interview. She said, "Yeah, the LPGA, the rules officials have me come in. We reviewed, the TV angles that they did have. We discussed it. Angel said her playing partner and her playing partner's caddy both were okay with where she dropped it. She said a marshal that was with them never told her it was like a bad place to be dropping it. And so ultimately, what are you going to do? She dropped where she thought was proper, and life goes on.
yeah. I feel like
I
my
don't
my
know,
my
man.
stance on where did it cross Twitter is well documented. These are not the kinds of things that this is a younger man's game. Big. I can't do it. I trust the
I just
professionals to get it right, and I
well,
feel like the people the invested and interested parties just probably have a better view of this stuff than I do. So it's fun to get mad as hell, and if you want, I could be like,
it
"This is
is.
bullshit. This is bullshit. That this is a stain on the game." We could do that if you want, but I don't know, man. I think everybody's just kind of doing their best, including the unpaid marshal or the paying marshal, I should say, that's down there that they're asking they're asking for his insight, his opinion on deciding this $4 million golf tournament.
And I think that's where I net out. Like, is it fun to get fired up every now and again? Of course. Like, did I have the
Gotta pick your
bandwidth this
spots, man. You
this
gotta pick your
weekend?
spots.
No, I just and you're right. Like, absent if it really is a big deal, then we would have a different system to determine where a drop should take place. But it seems like, man, if golf is okay with how we do it now, then in the end, like, who am I to say? I don't know.
All right, close us out on the LPGA side of the house.
Yeah, so a few year-long races were decided this weekend. I'd mentioned Nelly Corda had wrapped up Player of the Year, and I reiterate that comes
The
with a Hall of
spreadsheet
Fame point.
spreadsheet player of the year, not the eye test
Spreadsheet,
player of the year.
exactly.
Those votes are still being counted.
The other Hall of Fame point that is awarded is for the Bear Trophy, which goes to the season-long low scoring average. Japan's Ayaka Furuwe won that today. It literally came down to the final round. She clipped Heiran Ryu. They both were in contention, and they both trail Nelly and Gino because Nelly and Gino didn't meet the minimum round threshold.
This sounds like
So
another great system they got in place here, big. Who's
little
running these
scummy there,
awards?
perhaps. Yeah, a little scummy there. But congrats to Ayaka Furuwe. Mal Saigo wins your 2024 Rookie of the Year. Congrats to her. We had a surprise announcement. This one caught me off guard. Marina Alex is hanging it up,
Friend of the
which I
pod.
guess,
That
yeah,
was a shock to see today.
I know. Nobody really knew this until I guess she had Morgan Pressel knew on the telecast and kind of hinted at it as Marina was coming up 18. And then, obviously after the round they interviewed her and she was like, yeah, I just didn't want to make a big deal, put extra pressure on this week. And so
Right, what a refreshing tact rather than the year I feel like you see it in every sport, right? This is not even picking on golfers.
well, we're gonna
It's
talk
year
about
year
Lecky, I
long.
think,
Yeah,
at
I was
some
trying
point.
not to, throw too much direct shade, but even in baseball, you got the year long farewell tours and
I
everybody's got to
know.
get a gift, and it's just
Mm,
I
I know.
I stand with Marina as I usually do on most issues.
I was watching my fiance Kat came in and they were talking about, oh, Lexi, this is her last, event as a full time. And she's like, wait, I've seen this like 6 times this year. I'm like, nah, well, it's like every tournament, or it could be her last, but nobody knows for sure. Anyway, we're gonna get there, I think, in a little bit.
I forget on that note, I remember being at the Open Championship, it must have been 2015. Of course, everybody makes the big deal about the Swilken Bridge thing, and
Right.
I think it was Tom Watson was going over, but he'd already done this, like, look back and stop and take all the he'd already done like, this is, like, the 3rd time he'd done it, and there was some media member, I wish I could remember who it was, who's just like, "Man, fuck this. This guy's done this, like, 3 times, like, get out of here." And
Yeah.
it's always made me laugh.
Yeah, people retire different ways, and that was on full display. Allie Ewing was playing in her last tour championship. She's gonna retire.
Man, changing of the guard here.
Yeah, it is. It is a little bit.
Brittany Lincecum, Angela Stanford,
Who are
a lot of
not
people going out.
right, who are not in the tour championship, but two just stalwarts, mainstays
Yeah.
of women's golf the last decade plus. So yeah, you will see more of a changing of the guard, which I think is good. DJ, I just have to talk about one more thing. We can keep this pretty tight. But Beth Ann Nichols had an interview with the CME Group CEO Terry Duffy, and
I
people
This guy's getting a lot of burn in the world of women's
right.
golf, and I'm here for it. I think we could even turn up the heat a little bit.
He seems kind of maybe he might be a bit of like the shadow commissioner, at least definitely a power broker. I mean, $11 million for the tour championship is directly a result of his investment and his doing. Anyway, I rewind 2 years ago where I don't know if you remember that big controversy around
Of
one of
course,
the
how could I
the
forget?
the player dinners
Yeah.
at the CME and how pissed he was, like no players showed up. He even spoke out earlier this week about, the third
Tape delay.
round was on tape delay on
Yeah.
Golf Channel.
It was just low rent for a major tour, right?
Right. So Beth Ann publishes this interview with him, and listen, Tron and Cody and myself, we've been hearing hints that, the Molly tenure might not see 2025. I mean, I'm not reporting that as fact. I know that there's a lot of shit going on. And so when Beth Ann drops an interview with Terry Duffy, I'm expecting him to like light up LPGA Commissioner Molly Marcoux Samaan.
To
And it's the
continue to
complete
light
opposite.
to continue to
Yeah,
light her up.
continue. Right. And so one of the questions Beth Ann asked him, she asks, we're a little over 3 years into Molly's tenure. How would you assess the direction of the tour and how it's going? And this is where I'm like, oh God, Terry,
Here we go.
take it away, buddy. Like, give him the ball, let him cook. And he goes, I don't know how you could. I'm quoting him. I don't know how you could not give an A plus plus to where the tour is at today under her leadership. And he goes on to, kind of explain it, but he never really cites concrete examples. Part of it, he says, I'm quoting again Terry Duffy. When I look at Molly Marcoux I think, and listen, nobody pays me to say shit. You need to put that in there. I say what I want. All right. So let that be
Don't
known.
let him tell me what to do.
He goes, I signed that deal because of there's a 2-year extension that was just announced this week between CME and the LPGA. Terry says, I signed that deal because of Molly Marcoux. I'm going to be dead ass honest with you. That was a big part of it. I love the trajectory of the tour. I love the way the pace has been going. If I would have saw a more radical pattern the last few years, I would say, not so sure I like what I see. But I haven't seen that. I've seen growth. And so then, natural, Beth Ann, good journalist, her follow-up question, what specifically is it about her leadership that you appreciate? And Terry goes, quote, nothing in particular. I like the trajectory.
Just
And so I'm just
vibes,
like,
man.
yeah, I'm like, Jesus Christ, what are we doing?
Yeah, I remember grinding my feet on Molly's couch.
Yeah. So watch this space. Who knows what's going to happen? But I feel like December could be an interesting month in terms of LPGA leadership, or not, which I guess is interesting in and of itself.
We
But
shall see.
Yeah, Deej, that's about all I got from the Tour Championship.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. I know you and Cody will probably get a little deeper on an episode in the next couple weeks here, just looking back on the
We
season as a
will.
whole. We'll see what happens. I also just selfishly, I'm bummed to see Marina's playing career come to an end, but hopefully she comes on about 30 podcasts next year.
I know I
I think
wanna
it'd
I
be
wanna
great.
invite her to all our live shows already. Let's just get those on the calendar.
Well, before we get into the final PGA Tour event of the season, let's hear from our friends at Omni. Fall golf is here big, and what better way to appreciate the beauty of fall golf and get in a few rounds than visiting one of our favorite Omni hotels and resorts on the East Coast, like the historic and newly renovated Omni Homestead in Virginia. Me and KVV went and saw that one last year. It was excellent. Or the Oak Marsh course in Amelia Island, just north of our former home there in
That's right.
Jacksonville, big, which is set to open back up for public play next month following a $7.4 million renovation by Bo Welling. And just because the sun has set on twilight rounds doesn't mean that play stops. Omni Resorts have a ton of cool options to keep it going after dark, like the new Eagles Edge at Omni Orlando Champions Gate with 30 state of the art hitting bays featuring top tracer technology. Or you can explore the lighted 10-hole par 3 course, The Swing, at Omni PGA Frisco. I didn't get to play that last time I was there. That is absolutely on my list for next time. It looks electric.
That whole facility too, they have a lit huge putting green as
Yeah.
well, if you're in that area.
Don't forget, there's still time to register for the Omni Generation Cup, a first of its kind tournament. It aims to grow the game by bringing together golfers of all generations. Find your nearest Omni course and register today at omnihotels.com/Generation Cup with no shortage of offerings. What are you waiting for, Big? Get to omnihotels.com/golf and play the possibilities.
I can report next summer, my parents, it's their 50th wedding anniversary, and they're inviting the kids out to the Omni Homestead
Get
in
out of here.
Virginia.
Gonna
Yeah,
go
we're gonna spend a few days out there. So
Big
I
and
hope
Chuck and
to.
Peg and Good Bar and the whole gang is gonna go play the
Yeah,
possibilities.
exactly.
I love it.
I hope to play the golf course.
2 golf courses. You'll like them both. They're really fun.
Perfect.
All right, let's get over to the RSM Classic, where our guy Mav McNealy wins the final event of the season by one shot over Luke Clanton, Nico Echeverria, and Daniel Berger. Pumped for Mav McNealy. He has been a guy who's always been very good to this podcast. He's always fascinating to talk to. People talk a lot about his background and his dad. Famously is the Sun Microsystems billionaire. But Mav is like, I truly respect so much the way that he has gone about things, forged his own path. He works his ass off, and he just like seems like he's really used his situation in the best way possible, and like never takes anything for granted. And I think a lot of that was only exacerbated since he's been battling this nasty shoulder injury for the past like 3 or 4 years. I'm sure you've had a couple run-ins with Mav as well.
We got to play. God, I'm trying to think. We played a pro-am with him when he was going out with Danielle Kang. It was myself and Tron and Danielle and Mav. And my thing with Mav, I've met him in person now a couple times. He is very, very, very down to earth and the type of person that just seems super easy to hang out with. And kind of golf commentary aside, like on a personal level, one of the more enjoyable people that I've met. As we've been able to do what we do and meet a lot of people, Mav is like right up there. Like who would you feel comfortable just going to have a beer with? I feel
Totally.
like Mav is that person.
And I always think there's something interesting too about, Max is kind of the same example here, not necessarily with injuries, but just with poor play. As you see these guys coming out of college who are the absolute dudes, right? I mean, Mav tying Tiger's record at Stanford or breaking his record. I forget how many wins he had at Stanford.
Yeah, because then it was like
Um,
Patrick Rogers was
right.
up there. I never know what the
Yeah.
Stanford records.
But just the absolute guy coming out of college starts pretty quick to his pro career and then just starts, getting kicked in the teeth with injuries and watching guys, try to figure out whether they can put it back, whether they can kind of reinvent themselves a little bit. It's fun to see it all come full circle with a W, and now he's into the Masters and he's into Pebble and Riv and just a lot of good things coming Mav's way. And it's been a long time coming because I think the last couple of years have been pretty frustrating for him. So that was very fun to watch. It was kind of a fun, dare I say, a little fun November 24th afternoon of PGA Tour golf.
Yeah.
Luke Clanton knocking down flag sticks and trying to be the second amateur to win on the PGA Tour this year. This is a stat I dug up here big. Of all the players in this field at the RSM, there have only been two, according to strokes gained. There have only been two better than Luke Clanton over the past 6 months, and that's Ludwig and Davis Thompson, which Davis Thompson is no slouch himself. So we're going to talk much more Luke Clanton when Connor comes on later, but another unbelievable week for him. And then the last guy, or kind of two more guys I want to shout out. First one is our guy DB straight vibing, Daniel Berger. Again, battling injuries, trying to come back. I had kind of forgotten just like how long it had been. And when he played Amex earlier this year was his first event of the season. That was his first event in like 18 months that he had played. So I mean, the back injury was no joke. Sidelined him for a really long time, and it's not like he was playing great after the injury and after getting right. I mean, he only had one top 10, I think, coming into this week. That was at the Sanderson, and kind of came in with his back against the wall, number 127, and just absolutely balled out. Kind of runner up out of nowhere, and to move inside and get his card.
And this was like pressure. Like he doesn't have. This is where I always get so confused in golf.
Yeah,
Is I can never remember like who's on a medical exemption, and so like you come to a point like you're saying today with DB at number 127 and kind of needing a result this week. That was like he needed a result. He didn't have like medical stuff to fall back on or to kind of carry him
I believe
uh,
that's
over the first part of 2025. Is that right?
I believe that's right. I think
Yeah.
his last win, I think, was 20 or 21. I think at the Cognizant, he only had one win
Yes.
in that year.
More
So
recent than
I
that.
think
That's crazy.
I think that got him 2 years, and then I think that kind of ran out in 23, and then yeah. So I think I don't know. Depending on how the medical stuff, maybe he had an extra year. I'm with you. It's very confusing, and there's no real easy way to see it. But by all accounts, I think this was one that
But I choose to believe this was,
that's
when
where
he
I'm at.
needed a result, he went and got it. And so, yeah, we celebrate that.
And I will say some of his quotes were pretty sick as well. I don't know if you saw him talking about, he was asked about like the changes and it's this closed system now and there's just no spots for anybody. And I'm very much paraphrasing, but not by much. Or he's like, oh yeah, I don't really think about that stuff. Like if I'm playing like halfway decent, like I'm better than all these guys anyway. So like it's not gonna be an issue. Which is delightful
It's
and
sick.
just
Yeah.
shines a light on like, man, we've been robbed over the last 2 years. He's kind of one of those guys. I don't know. I'm not ready to make any like big declarative statements here, but alternate universe. Daniel Berger is like such a superstar. I feel like I think he was trending on that trajectory for a while. He's a really fun, like funny personality, and I think without these injuries, there's a world where he's going toe to toe with Scotty and just the PGA Tour is better off for it. So maybe
Yeah.
that still exists in the future. We'll see. Uh,
Let's hope so because you're right. Listen, we got to celebrate and hold up those kind of interesting personalities, and he is that. And I think he's somebody that wouldn't mind seeing and hearing more of Daniel Berger. And
Here,
so as
here.
he gets healthy and plays better, I think we're gonna get to experience that.
Not to mention his tennis lineage, which I know gets you going. But
Exactly.
last guy I will shout out specifically again. We'll have a bunch more RSM stuff with Connor when he hops on in the back half. Is just Ludwig playing his first event since the Tour Championship. Obviously went and got his knee cleaned up. He finished T17. Pretty, just trying for the human spirit stuff here. He was 5 over through his first 10 to start the tournament, and then clawed back and shot 264s on Friday and Sunday. And
Well,
uh,
my guy just
apparently,
ran out of holes.
yeah,
You
apparently
know, this was a 90 hole
that's
event. I think he
exactly
wins it.
right. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, apparently the knee works. A couple of little bubble things that we wanted to talk through. So the first one's the 51 to 60 bubble, which gets you into Pebble and Riv.
I was gonna say, give me a quick refresher on these.
So very quick, everyone after Wyndham, or after the playoffs, I should say, everyone everyone who is in the top 50 is locked, right? So you're not
Okay.
moving from 46 to 44. If you're 46,
Okay.
you're 46. If you're outside the top 50, you have a chance to move up. And if you are after today's round, if you're inside that window from 51 to 60. You might know it big as the Aon Next 10. Then
Oh,
you
that. Oh, sure,
yeah,
sure,
I'm
sure,
sure
sure,
everybody's been
sure.
asking about
Had
the
you
Aon
led
Next
with
10.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah,
what that
yeah.
is. If you, are inside that 51 to 60, you get into Pebble and Riv, not Century for some reason, so I don't know. It's
Sure.
with all of that as
But a
preamble, I
couple dope ciggies early in
that's exactly
2025.
right. Who's saying no to an
Okay.
invite to those events? That's a good,
Yeah.
it's a Mav McNealy, that's one of the perks he's gotten. I don't, don't have to tell you how much he loves Pebble, so, that'll be a good one. Joining him there will be the Soldier Boy, Kevin Yu, who moves from 61 to 58, and
Sure.
it pains me to say our guy Team Rose, falls from number 60 to 62 this week, so he will likely have to, rely
Damn.
on some sponsor exemptions if he's going to play Pebble and Riv, but we shall see. And then, of course, the other bubble is the top 125 bubble. This is the tour card. You are a fully exempt player if you're inside the top 125. So if you're outside the top 125, they're not going to send you to Guantanamo Bay. Like, you'll still get a couple of starts, but you do not automatically get into all of the exempt events.
So these guys were not playing for their life.
I don't
I
think
mean,
so.
they
I mean, it's a
are,
big
but
deal. It's a big deal, and I
for
thought
sure.
Kisner had a tweet about, once these changes go into place, like, the system does get even more closed, and so it is even harder when you're 126 or 131 or whatever to get your way back in.
Sure.
But, yeah, I mean, I'm sure there'll be a couple of guys we will still have
But they're
proof of life
not going to labor camps out in
not that I
Siberia.
know of. At least not
Okay.
now. Who knows? Let this policy board
Okay.
keep running shit, and we'll see where it ends up. Henrik Norlander is the biggest mover of the week. He goes from 126 to 120. And then rounding out the top 125, we have at 121, Alex Smalley, 122, David Mr. Skins, 123, Sammy Valimaki, 124, Joel Dahmen. We'll talk more about him in a second. And 125, Sam Ryder, which means that devastatingly somehow our guy ZB for the second time in his career is 126. He is the first man
Oof.
out, which is tough.
Oof.
Things you hate to see. He
Oof.
started the fall at number 115 and just kind of fell just enough to fall outside of that 125. So
Mm.
bummed for our guy there. Wes Bryan started the week at number 125, but missed the cut. So he fell to 128. One I wanted to ask you about here, Big. Joel Dahmen
Yeah.
was kind of the story of the day. It was really fun to watch. He was out early. He, again, I think Connor saw some of this and talked to him a little bit, so he'll fill us in a little bit more. But just brass tacks, X's and O's here. After the season, he was 118th on the FedEx Cup, missed the playoffs, but he gets a sponsor exemption into the Zozo, which is a 78-man no cut event where he finishes T41. He earns 13 FedEx Cup points for that T41, and now he gets his card. He keeps his card by 7 points. So I know everything is not, it's not quite that linear, and all the points count the same. And it's easy to look at that. And also, it's worth mentioning ZB also got an exemption into that, and got a couple points that weren't quite enough for him. But how do you feel about that? Is that making the tour better? Is that making the tour worse?
I'm of a few different minds. My maybe overarching reaction is like, hey, life's never fair. And so it worked out for Joel here. Great, good for him. But I'm also of the mind like it does it just kind of has a stink to it, right? And my solution would be I have no issue with there being sponsor exemption into the Zozo or these fall events, right? Which are, the fall time now is such a big deal for jockeying for points and status and etc. Where it seems to me like let's meet in the middle. We can give sponsors exemptions. Joel and ZB can go play in Japan, and wherever they finish, they're entitled to that money,
Yeah,
but maybe they don't get the FedEx Cup points,
that's
which
interesting.
is the way they do it on the LPGA Tour. The second Asian swing, the one in the fall, is a lot of limited field events. And if players get invited who haven't otherwise qualified through their season standing, they're free to play. They're free to cash the checks, but the
Yeah,
points they earn do not apply to the season long CME race. So
that's
I
if you
like that way of doing
yeah.
it. That seems like the most equitable for everything because yeah, it just I'd be pissed if I were a guy that like, yeah, Joel he's a little bit more popular. He's able to go over there and get a few points, and that's the difference between full status and I'm over here at 127 or 128 or whatever the case may be.
That's really interesting, especially when you start thinking about, the what's gonna happen with the signature events and, guys who are outside of that top 50 now are like Jordan Spieth and Ricky Fowler and, I mentioned Justin Rose, like guys who are gonna get a lot of exemptions and probably going to follow if they have any, shred of their normal form will probably follow that like Adam Scott type of model, what he did this past year, where he got exemptions into a bunch of the signature events, no cut, guaranteed points, guaranteed money events. And he played his way all the way into the top 50. And granted, he played pretty nice, but coming into the season was not really on that path. And I do think that's a good middle ground where it's like, yeah, give Ricky and Jordan and these guys who are like gonna put butts in the seats, like give them, access to these tournaments. But yeah, if you want to keep your card and you want to, you want to get your way back, you want to earn your way back into it, then you better go to, Detroit and Minneapolis and go get on that hot humidity tour in the summer, man. And that's where you're gonna
Yeah.
have to do it. If you're better than these guys, then go beat these guys. You know what? You
I think that's the way.
bring that bill to
Yeah.
the floor. I think I might sign it big.
I think we could almost whip the votes. Like, let's get this implemented for next year.
Hell yeah. I'm kind of embarrassed.
Seems like a
I hadn't thought
no-brainer.
about that. I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are going to talk a little bit more about the RSM in a bit when Connor hops on. Before we do, so we've done the E9 the last couple of weeks, big. We're gonna there's just simply too many golf holes we got to play. The land is too good, so we're gonna do a
Well,
little.
I hate playing 9. I'm more of an
No,
18-hole
exactly.
guy.
That's what I
Yeah.
figured. So we're gonna do a little front nine, back nine here.
Let's
Okay.
keep score.
So
Yeah.
the front nine's gonna be this is just stuff that I know I had to put on your radar. I couldn't sleep if I knew you missed any of this stuff. So
Yeah.
let's get into it. Number one. Australian PGA Championship. Cool story here. Heartfelt congrats to 22-year-old Elvis Smiley, who won the Aussie PGA in Brisbane over his idol Cam Smith by 2 shots.
That's cool.
I don't know if you saw this big. So had no idea that Cam Smith does this, but every year he does like a scholarship where he picks. I don't know how he picks or how people apply or whatever, but 2 Australian junior golfers just like get on his radar, and he flies them over to the States to just spend a week with him in Jacksonville, playing golf, hanging out, going to dinner, practicing, asking questions, whatever. And so 5 years ago, Elvis Smiley, when he was 17, was one of those dudes. And it just happened. I'm sure you remember because I think you were living there at the time too. Hurricane Dorian was going
Yeah.
through. That's when he was there. So they couldn't really play golf. So they just hung out at his house, like playing putting games and like dicking around in Cam's F1 simulator. And so it just kind of became like buddies. And, Elvis like has looked up to him forever. And then all of a sudden he's facing him down, in the final round of the Aussie PGA. Just a very cool, heartwarming story. I was way into that one.
I dig that, and immediately what comes to my mind is, we've done a few week in the life video, productions. God, that would have been a fun one, right?
Right? Well,
Turning
there will be no golf. We're just gonna
turning lemons into lemonade?
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Elvis, we're gonna follow your week here with Cam Smith in the States, and it
That's
just
right.
turns out being F1 races and indoor putting games.
I
That'd
think
be
also
that'd be sweet.
where my head went is you should start offering a scholarship, if, the big Randy, come to
That's
Denver,
interesting.
we're
Yeah,
gonna go to get some coffee for 3 or 4 hours in the morning,
I
we'll
know.
we'll read quietly to ourselves. Uh,
Yeah, there will be you'll get 4 questions. Please use them wisely. This is not gonna be an interactive deal, certainly not all week. We will have designated times when we can open
yeah.
open the floor for some conversation.
You're welcome to join me for a walk. I gotta take the dog out. I don't know if we're gonna again, I think we can just be kind of like alone
Again, we're just
together sort of thing.
yeah, we're gonna occupy the same space, but we don't necessarily need to this is kind of, I need to charge my batteries, and this is
Exactly.
one of the times I do that.
Yeah, I think people could maybe glean a lot just by watching you do what you do. I think that's something we should maybe put on our 2025 budget.
Okay. All right. That's good. That's good.
All right, number 2, speaking of Cam Smith, this was an SI golf story from, Matt Vincenzi. Just there's an unnamed Live GM whose phone is just, quote, "ringing off the hook" right now, big, and I don't know what this means. The unnamed GM, said, quote, "My phone's been ringing nonstop basically since before Dallas. Things are starting to happen from either players directly or agents calling and exploring and wanting to look at the possibility of coming on LIV. Two guys
Sure.
had very big offers are now calling, wanting to be on a LIV team. They said it was the worst decision that they ever made, not accepting the offer and coming over. I don't think these LIV GMs would have
Mm.
anything to gain from throwing false statements out there, big. So I think we got to take this one at face value. This could be some new free agent signings coming. It could be from the promotions event, or there was a line in the story too about how all these guys have been relegated who stink, Bubba and Kieran Vincent and things of that nature. Uh,
Did my guy Huddy get relegated?
I'm not sure. I would have to double check.
Who could
Well, there's
say?
also
Yeah.
the open zone and there's the green zone. There's so many zones to keep track of. But the line I really liked was that teams are able to re-sign relegated players, quote, if there's a business case for bringing them back. Like in the case of Bubba, who's I believe the main shepherd of the Range Goats. I think it's like, the franchise is just worth that much more if he's involved. I think again, nothing says just like we demand to be taken seriously. Like, we're gonna wheel Bartolo Colon out there because he's gonna sell tickets. Is kind of a sick way to go about this.
If they would publish said business cases, I wanna know I wanna at least have access to the business cases. I know I won't get to play Arbiter, but I desperately wanna know what the business cases are.
It also sounds like AK will be coming back in some form. We don't
Thank
know
God.
how or where or what, but that's your live corner.
Real quick there though, I will say TC is praying for a live defection, so then ZB would slot upwards from 126 into
That's
125.
true. I didn't think about
So
that.
keep an eye there.
That's true. Yeah, maybe don't even have to worry about it if all these people are banging down the door.
Exactly,
You start booking your hotel room for Sony now. All right, speaking of TC, he actually had an apology after doing something quite disgusting last week. If you'll remember on the E9, of course, he likes to talk about the fabulous Will It Fit game. He just really screwed the pooch on this last one. He got it totally wrong. He thought that it wouldn't fit. Anyways, here's TC.
Guys, real quick, wish I could be with you tonight. Serving my suspension in an undisclosed location. Suspended for what, you may ask? I made a grave error last week, as so many people pointed out on X, and DJ, asked me to resign even. It turns out 4 T-Rexes will fit inside the TGL screen. I think they're using some pretty small T-Rexes, if we're being honest, but I was distracted when I was putting together the agenda, and I just didn't bother reading the reply that they actually would fit. I just assumed that they wouldn't fit. So, terrible error, and cost me a lot of credibility. So hopefully I can get back in everybody's good graces and be back on the podcast here soon. Guys, have a great show tonight, and just wanted to address that. Thank you.
So there you have it. TC taking the high road as always. I think he was worried. He sidebarred with me afterwards that they may have stopped doing the Will It Fit game just with all the heat that he's thrown on it now. I don't know that I saw one recently, but I hope that's not the case because it's been a kind of light in the darkness.
I will report too, it sounded very busy if you're just listening to TC on the podcast. I believe he's on a concourse at TD Garden, home of the Boston Celtics.
Himself.
Why, you might ask? Who knows? We don't know. We simply don't know. But I believe TC was filming that while taking in
Just
a
could not
Celtics
miss the game
game.
tonight. Just couldn't.
Right.
Just had to go. Speaking of TGL, TC also made the entire No Laying Up team use the team selector tool that is
Yeah.
on the website to identify which team should be their squad. This is a questionnaire, basically like, are you a playboy? Do you like partying? What kind of food do you like? Are you hammering steaks? Are you drinking protein shakes? Are you having smoothies? And then it spits out what TGL team you should root for. And so I can report here officially that following the Bay Golf Club will be Neil, TC, and Ben. Those are the NorCal West Coast living guys. A little more serious, New York GC, following in the footsteps of Steve Cohen and some of the more serious-minded, business folks, is Casey and Solly. So best of luck to them and their squad. Cody was our lone fan of Boston Common. I think that tracks. I think he's like a quiet Red Sox fan as well. Following Jupiter Links will be Jordan and our our very own Randy as well. Can't wait to unpack that. And then rounding it out, following our beloved LAGC, Serena Alex Ohanian's team featuring, Tommy and Sahith and I believe Team Rose, is me and KVV. So that I think proves the validity of the team selector tool. Question for you, Big. Just what is it about Jupiter Links that resonates with you so much?
Oh my God. The easier question would be like, what isn't it about Jupiter Links that I'm attracted to? Taking the quiz, I think I'm just threading that needle between total beach vibes. I like to wear shorts and shades, and my preferred meal is Taco Tuesday. And
Rocco's
I think
Tacos.
that fits really well with Jupiter Links. But honestly, Deej, if I'm kind of reading what Jupiter Links Golf Club is all about, it sounds like they're a work hard, play hard. And we play at the beach and at Taco Tuesday with some margs, but we work hard too, because one of the questions was, what do you like about the game of golf? And I forget what my exact answer was, but it was such a dumb quiz. But yeah, Jupiter Links. I also, when they flashed the Jupiter Links team up, I had no idea that Kevin Kisner was the fourth member. There was this guy, and I was like, I don't know who that is. I don't know why his picture looks nothing like him.
Oh, all right. Moving on. Number 4.
I mean, is that fair?
I think that's great. No,
Certainly you must have some strong LA Golf Club feeling.
yeah, no, I think that's all going to come out as part of the next brand rollout around LAGC. I think they're waiting to create some exclusive content around that. So you'll hear from my team on that shortly. Number 4, Patrick Reed shot 59 at the Hong Kong Open, which is an Asian Tour event. This kind of reminded me a little bit of the end of Tar, when disgraced Lydia Tar is doing that just conducting that symphony for that video game in like Vietnam or Thailand or wherever that is.
Asia. God, that's a good pull. Makes me want to watch Tar tonight.
Just like, yeah, no, he's out there doing it. No, to take nothing away, Jamie Kennedy had a great thread from Golf Digest saying 27 players have shot sub 60 rounds on the PGA Tour, DP World Tour, LPGA, LIV, or the Asian Tour, not counting the Korn Ferry Tour there, where I think another pretty large handful of people have.
Like 4 a week on the Korn Ferry.
But in relation to the field average, like the scoring average for the day, he said this would not be in the 200 best rounds since hole-by-hole stats started in 2004. It's kind of a par 70, 6,700-yard golf course. I think that scoring average, there was like a bunch of guys that broke 65. So
they were playing lift, clean, and plays.
I take nothing away from P for being out there doing it, beating the bushes, playing pro golf, cashing checks and breaking necks all around the world. I sincerely, I do respect that. But I think that's going to be, unless you have anything else to add, that's going to be all I got on the P59.
No, the 59 or shooting in the 50s has been cheapened. We got to make golf hard again. Like Korn Ferry, everybody does. Like, there's just too many. It doesn't mean much anymore.
Here.
Yeah.
All right, this is a quick one. Number 5, Luke Clanton, another runner-up finish on the PGA Tour. He has 8 starts as an amateur on the PGA Tour. In those 8 starts, he has 4 top 10s, which includes 2 runners up, and he's only missed 1 cut. So the question for you, Big, is it crazy to think that Luke might be an American Ryder Cupper next year?
In an ideal world, I would love for him to be in the discussion, but yes, it is crazy to think that Luke is going to be a Ryder Cupper.
I'm going to take the side that it's not crazy, just because I think the U.S. is scrambling for ideas and vibes and culture and all kinds of things. And I think that U.S. team just gets a little thinner than people realize once you get down to that 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 range. So I see where you're coming from, but I think I don't know. I would appreciate the discourse. I hope the discourse sticks around, and I hope his good play sticks around.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think I mean, obviously a long way to next September, but like, should Nick Dunlap be in the conversation ahead of him, in
I
your
mean,
opinion?
I think that it's a smaller sample size, I know, because it hasn't been a full season, but, like, Clanton's been just worlds better than Dunlap. Dunlap's had a couple of pops and obviously one at the Amex, but I think
And the
consistency-wise
Barracuda.
and the Barracuda God, I honestly forgot about that.
So that's why I just say that because it's
Yeah.
like, God, the guy's won twice.
No, it's true. That's true. I think Clanton in his small sample size has been much more consistent, but you're right that he has gotten it done. I don't know,
I
that's a
would
fun
love
conversation to have, right?
well, and I would love for the US to kind of use the 11th or 12th spots on guys that they believe are, pick them a couple years early if you
Totally.
believe that they have a good chance to be stalwarts over the next decade. I think that would freshen it up a little bit for me, some new blood instead of just going back to, I could pick on some guys here, but who would be in that like 11th, 12th spot otherwise? Like guys like
Yeah,
Sam Burns and
right.
that like aren't really doing it for me, I guess.
Sure. All right, let's move on. Number 6. I believe you threw this one in there, Big, about, Tour Championships
Yeah.
starting scores.
Well, it just had me thinking, obviously, the LPGA Tour Championship, they do not use the starting strokes uh, thing that the PGA Tour does, the scoring system. But I went back and I thought, okay, well, had they done that, what would this LPGA leaderboard look like this weekend? And actually, it's like a fantastic leaderboard. So Nelly, well, Gino would have won, which is kind of cool. She would have won either way, but Gino would have finished at 26 under par. Nelly would be one shot back at 25 under par. Lydia would be two shots back at 24 under par. And then you'd have Angel Yin and Ronning Yin at 21 under par. So could have potentially had, three of the best women in the world kind of paired together had they gone with this scoring system that the PGA Tour uses. My question to you, DJ, beyond the scoring system, do we need like tour? Like, what is a tour championship? What's the point of a tour championship? And do we need it? Like, does it have to be like? I kind of hate these playoffs, and I don't know. It just got me thinking today. Like, what are we trying to do here?
I think nothing shines a light brighter on how irrational and, like, uh, just a little ass backwards the pro golf is than the tour championships, and just the fact that these tours who are responsible for making these players 90 to 95, 98% of their money also don't own any of the biggest events in the game, right? And the same is pretty much true on the LPGA side. On the men's side, obviously it's the majors and the Ryder Cup, and pretty similar on the women's side. And so all of those tours like are getting into boardrooms and deciding like, man, we need, for our own sake, like it's important to us that we have something that pays these off. And I'm with you that like I don't know that fans have ever felt that need. I think maybe the tour championship like back in the day might have even had a little more. I don't know, I shouldn't say it has more juice than it did because it was kind of mired in October and just kind of an afterthought. But yeah, I'm with you, Big. If you take the FedEx Cup thing and you take this bill and you put those on my desk, I'll happily get rid of the tour championship.
Yeah,
After
well,
this.
because we just start with like, hey, we need a mechanism to distribute money
Yeah,
to what have been the best players over the course of the year. Uh,
yeah, it's
so
not.
let's devise a solution in service of a problem that really isn't a problem to the fan. Yeah,
Yeah,
the whole thing is stupid. Like, I'm just sitting here. Why can't we just have a regular tournament? And we all know it's the last tournament of the year, and we don't need to like go through the rigmarole of like this is the tour championship.
which I know the PGA Tour already had their tour championship, but that's how it was on the PGA Tour today. It was like, oh, this is it, and there was nothing more than that. It didn't need to be. It didn't need to have a special title. It didn't need to have like anything from the kind of like return to golf season of championships opening drive folder. It's just like, no, it's just the RSM, man. It's the last one, and this is where we finalize the points. So maybe that's why I kind of enjoyed watching it today.
Yeah.
But
So I just think it's weird in women's golf. Like they use they use a points-based system to determine player of the year, to get all the way to the tour championship, and then they wipe the slate clean. So, Angel Yin, who hasn't won this year, could have won $4 million first prize in the tour championship. And you're like, okay, was she like the season long champ? Like, what does this make her? It just is very strange. My humble suggestion, in light of the LPGA Founders Cup, which is, I think, should be their most significant event that the LPGA itself owns. It honors the 13 original founders, and they just lost their title sponsor, and so now they've moved that Super Bowl weekend in February to Bradenton, Florida. I'm like, ugh, like why not just make the founder, combine that with
Yeah.
the CME, make it a big celebration of women's golf. We don't have to call it the Tour Championship. You can still have a humongous purse. Like make it like the Players. Make it the most important non-major. I don't know. Humble
Yeah.
suggestion. Let's go to number 7.
I love it. I co-sign it big. I like that idea. All right, number 7. This involves an event called the Match Superstars, which is apparently something that aired over
Allegedly.
2 days this week. I don't really know where it aired, and I'm not truly not poking fun at anybody. I'm just in awe a little bit at how little I saw about this event, because it had 8 I would call pretty bona fide stars playing golf. It was kind of a post-produced thing. I truly did not see one person talking about this. And just in comparison to even the other matches, it was just a wild, like just a wild kind of surreal experience to have something like this going on, when I'm told constantly how much the key to getting people into golf is non-golfers. I just really did not see anybody talking about this. So my
Who
question for you, Big,
Well, who
can
was
you
playing in
can
it?
you
We're
name
burying the
one
lead.
person who was playing in this event?
The Match Superstars.
There's 8 of them.
Okay, I have to start with DJ Khalid.
No, that's
Khalid.
strike 1.
That's shocking. God, who else is just nebulously
Some
in and
low hanging
around
fruit.
golf?
It's a it's a Turner product. Let
Okay,
me give you
Charles
yeah, let
Barkley.
me just get you on first base here. Charles Barkley,
Chuck.
check.
Okay. I truly don't even know what to guess. Like, it's no golfers, right? Maybe some legends. Is it like,
No
we're calling
professional
it
golfers. There are some other
n-
professional
none of
athletes,
any kind?
some professional
Okay.
entertainers.
My guy Larry Fitzgerald always showing
Great
up at stuff like this.
great guess, but no. It was, friend of the pod, Bill Murray,
Of course. Of
Marky
course.
Mark Wahlberg,
Why not?
Charles Barkley you mentioned, the great one, I believe he won, Michael
Oh,
Phelps,
Wayne Gretzky. Took me a while to who are we talking about? Okay.
Nate Bargatze, Ken Griffey Jr.,
Sure.
and, Blake Griffin. So there you have it. Just wild yeah, just very strange. Didn't get it. Like, I didn't see that anywhere. And I call on anybody who did to talk me off this one, but just a really weird situation.
Well, it's interesting. I think we try to stay pretty in tune with the world of golf. And if you're not hitting our radar, I just wonder whose radar are you hitting?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe just a true, like, scrolling channels and, let me just see what this is all about. But yeah, just no push around this thing at all. Very strange. Number 8, speaking of just media conglomerates, Golf Channel has been spun off from our beloved Comcast into its own kind of, it's very complicated here, but into its Golf Channel, along with 5 or 6 other cable networks that are owned by Comcast. These are things like CNBC and I believe your beloved Bravo might be on the list, Randy. Uh, are being spun off into their own company and basically divested from Comcast. And what that means is unclear. There's a lot more questions than answers right now. I think the big thing is that, nothing is changing in the absolute immediate term. It's not like Golf Channel ceases to exist when the PGA Tour comes back around in January. But I think long term, it's kind of like, yeah, this is clearly not what Comcast sees as a profitable part of the future. It's worth noting that they are keeping NBC and Peacock, and likely just ramping up all of their efforts into the world of the world of streaming. So by all accounts, it sounds like NBC Sports is on the hook to fulfill its obligations as far as rights deals for the PGA Tour, the LPGA, the DP World Tour, things of that nature. They're going to have Mark Lazarus, who's the current chairman of NBC Sports, will lead this new company. But yeah, just a lot more questions than answers right now, Big.
So I can report, quickly looking this up, Bravo is staying with the parent company.
Is that
Which
right?
I was going to
Okay.
be a little surprised because I always felt like Bravo has to be wildly popular. I know it is in my house.
When I was doing my notes, I think that was up in the air, but it's good to have some clarity on that. Massive
Yeah.
for Top Chef as well.
Yeah, you're going to have like USA Network, Sci-Fi, E, Oxygen, MSNBC, CNBC, and Golf Channel are the ones they cite as being spun off. And listen, we've known that they've been cutting costs at Golf Channel, or it seems like it. I'm not sure if we've ever actually had hard evidence of that, but you just watch the product. So I guess it doesn't fill me with a lot of like warm fuzzies that all of a sudden Golf Channel and the production capabilities are going to get better as it's spun off from a multi-billion-dollar parent company.
Yeah, it's just a weird, as always, I think just calling this stuff out, weird time for purses to go up by, a factor of 3. Just a strange time in professional golf where a lot of shit seems to be moving at polar opposite directions. But also comes at the same time that, the PGA Tour's massively ramping up their production capabilities and opening a new broadcast center in Ponte Vedra Beach, and so true, who knows what's going to happen, but you can't say that the boys didn't report it and read it into the record. Big, here we are. Finally, number 9. I got to ask you about this. I know you kind of had eyes on the LPGA today. I was watching the RSM. Are you familiar with this PGA Tour fan shop commercial?
Unfortunately, yes, because you sent me a commercial and I wish I had never seen it.
This is and I bring this up for a very specific reason. This is a
It honestly
commercial.
almost ruined my day.
This is a commercial where a lot of very innocent people who I'm not taking a shot at, just doing things like riding their bike and jogging and doing all kinds of activities around my former home of
You should
Atlantic.
take a shot at these people. These people have free will. They have choice. I'm sure they weren't being paid enough to justify their participation in this.
They're running around Atlantic Beach, Neptune Beach, a lot of sites I recognize in this commercial, and they're just wearing like gear from like specific tournaments. So there's someone on a beach cruiser wearing like a John Deere Classic polo.
PGA Tour specific.
There's
Let's be very clear.
There's someone out there just, walking into pose wearing like a Wells Fargo championship gear, like from head to toe. And there's some very weird language in the commercial just about this is the only place you could get this gear. Scan the QR code so you can buy merch with your favorite tournament on it. And I'm the reason I bring this up, Big, is because I think the chief complaint of this podcast is how the fuck are there so many commercials on the PGA Tour broadcast? And is there any you can give back? Is there any that we just don't need to be doing? Right. And this is the kind of stuff where I'm like, man, I know the barbarians are at the gate, and I know that like we need to really rethink the business model, and we need to flip over every couch cushion to drum up some cash and keep these guys around and keep them happy. I just don't think selling 13 John Deere Classic polos is the way we're gonna flip this thing. It kind of feels
No.
like we need to build a new hospital and we're having a fucking bake sale outside trying to raise the dough. It just is really, really, really frustrating type of stuff. And that's where I think I saw that commercial probably 5 times today. And I'm like, all right, man, like, in the grand scheme of things, is that a huge deal? Probably not. But man, just little chunks of time that we could have been given back to the tournament. Extrapolate that over a season. Extrapolate that because then it's like we're also seeing golf breaks by PGA Tour. We're also seeing commercials for the TPC network. And I don't think all this stuff is laddering up to like billions of dollars in revenue that we need to like reshape this company. So just kind of a canary in the coal mine of what feels like some real fuckery that's going on, Big.
It sucks. Listen, it sucks. The commercial has an aesthetic of like a very bad knockoff prescription medication type deal where everybody's a little too happy. It just looks a little too, a little too polished. And you're right. They're wearing just run-of-the-mill PGA Tour tournament gear as they're seemingly loving life down in Atlantic Beach. It just that you want to talk about the sweet spot of stuff that pisses me off. That was it, Deej.
And I don't know.
You're gonna have to share it on social. I'm
I don't want. Yeah,
not sure.
if people, I don't know. If you are looking for one of these polos, I take nothing away from you. Maybe you do just want to wear like, fuck, man, it'd be sick to have a Valspar Championship hat. And
But
I
if
have
you're
no other
making that
means of getting
decision,
one.
no, if you're making that decision in November of the year and not tournament week, then I do have a problem with you. I do.
Ah,
Like, that sucks. What are you gonna give a gift? Don't give somebody that. Nobody wants that.
no.
And if you're getting it for yourself, then yeah, it's like, man,
You know what people do probably want for the
that'd be a
holidays,
bigger
Big?
discussion. Yeah, what?
A Rowback hoodie.
Yeah, they
You
do.
know, cooler weather. It's time for cooler weather, which means it is time for Rowback. You all know how much we love their hoodies. You can see Big has a beautiful tan one on right now. The best hoodies
Yeah.
on the market. And between their hoodies, Q-zips, and crew necks, Rowback does not miss with secondary layers. They're fresh off new releases for the season, and Rowback is ready with your favorite colors and designs. They are also fresh off the release of their new Fulton Hybrid jacket. Do you have one of those? Denver, it's like got to be the
I need
epicenter of
one.
those things, man.
I know.
Uh,
That and the pants, sheepishly, I do not have either yet.
You took the words out of my mouth. They just restocked the Delta pants after selling out almost immediately for their initial release. It's easy to see why. They have really nice stretch waistband with belt loops, making them ideal for the course or just for your everyday pant. Rowback is having their biggest sale of the year, 20% off their entire website for all customers. That's 20% off all hoodies, pants, jackets, and more. No code needed, Big. Just go to the website, RHOBACK.com, and introduce others to the most comfortable activewear in the game this holiday season. Shout out to Rowback, and thank you for the support all year long. Big, that's going to do it for the front nine. Let's grab ourselves a transfusion. We're going to head to the back nine. And to do that, we're going to bring in our guy, Connor Belcastro. Connor is someone whose writing you may have read on nolayingup.com. He is the recently graduated captain of the Princeton golf team and now is giving it an earnest go to play professional golf. He just moved down to the Golden Isles of St. Simon's, Sea Island, things of that nature. And he spent all week out at the RSM. So, Connor, how are you? Welcome. Hi. Hello. What's on the mind?
Doing well. Yeah, good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for hopping on. You spent the week at the RSM Classic. You moved down to join the Sea Island Mafia to hone your craft down there. So we figured as long as you're there, we might as well send out a probe, and see what they come back with, right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Home game models and all that jazz. I play these golf courses multiple times a week, and so to be able to go out there and see what the best players in the world, kind of get out there and do, it's kind of a hypothetical until you see it for real, right? It's like, man, it's a tough day today. Bet these guys aren't going to go low, and then you watch them go low. It's like, oh, okay, sweet. Like, that's awesome. Good to know I got to go shoot 64 in this condition. Like,
God,
awesome,
I just gotta
great.
do it like every day.
Yeah, man, it's guys are really, really good.
Connor, how much? Sorry, quick question here before you get going.
Yep.
But how much did you sense these courses being toughened up in the lead up to the event? Or I guess another way to ask that: how different do the courses play this weekend compared to what you've seen since moving down there?
Yeah, I would bet that. So some of them have been a little bit shut down leading up to the event. So I haven't seen them super up close and personal. I would say playing Plantation, it definitely got a lot faster. All of a sudden, you just kind of show up and like I think they top dress the greens, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, like we're hitting putts way past, like stuff's ripping. But as far as I'm not sure it's necessarily tougher. I think it's just in better shape. If
Okay.
I think that's probably a better way of looking at it.
Pins a little, teaser all the way back, pins a little closer to the edges,
Yeah,
things of that
yeah,
nature.
pretty
But
much.
I guess I only ask. It's not like these guys are playing a super tricked up version of the courses that
They're not.
you're playing, which I
They're
guess
not.
just makes that appreciation for what they're able to do that much more.
For sure. Yeah. And I think if they were putting pins in the hey, why is there a pin here spot and then going out and shooting 63, that would be even more alarming. It's a good, fair setup, and the the scores that they're shooting do make sense. I mean, it was windy out there for a lot of the week, especially on Friday, and it was cold and windy on Friday too. And so some of the numbers these guys shot, it's like, wow, like you're just in control of your golf ball to that level. Like that's just really impressive. So, you know, it takes nothing away from any of that. But
backing up to the start of the week, you went out to Brunswick Country Club, which is you know, have to mention one of the illustrious Monday qualifiers that I actually have caddied in before.
oh, no way.
Yeah, and so I'm curious the scenes there because you know you always run out of daylight. You always have to
Yep.
like bring out the Bagger Vance lights at the end of the
Which is so cool.
you know, the end of the day. So just paint me a little scene of what that was like and what you're thinking about out there because that's kind of one of those things very few people get to see.
Yeah, so I mean, I picked up my media credential right before, and then kind of show up thinking that I was gonna have to like tell somebody what I was doing or something like that.
Nobody.
And it's truly a just like, oh, like there's another person on the grounds. Okay, like it's truly everything they say about sectionals, where it's like, yeah, there's no ropes. You can just watch your favorite players playing golf. It's like that times a billion. It's just like, oh, there's another dude here now.
I remember going to like a US Open sectional qualifying like that. I was like, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
it's Skip Kendall. This is crazy, man. I get to
Yeah.
see him up close. This is nuts."
Yeah.
DJ Trahan. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, I'd be remiss if I didn't say Brunswick Country Club absolutely slaps
So sick.
in terms of
Yeah.
like just really cool, fun Rosses where they kept the plateaus in good shape and like it's golf as Ross intended it. It's like truly awesome golf. But you get through the first two holes. I think it was a 7 for 4. Two guys ended up getting spots, so now it's a 5 for 2. Just watching those guys like make the phone calls to their parents walking in from the green was just so cool. Of like, you know, hey mom, I'm in a tour event now. Like it's just such a good sun setting. That's an important, like beautiful lighting for the first two holes. And I just, you know, I'm not a good photographer, so I got like a bunch of phone stuff that looks terrible. But it's like, oh my god, this is so sweet. And then pretty soon it's like, guys, the sun's gonna set, and like, what are we gonna do?
Planned here.
And this is where I'm not sure. You know, we talk about the tour is just running so much stuff, and like they've got so many balls in the air. They're just like, oh yeah, man, we've got like the gas powered lights. We're just gonna light up the 8th hole. Like it's fine. Like we just got a bunch of like highway side of the highway roadwork night suns, and it's like, what? Like that's not gonna work. And then you look, it's
And it
like,
does.
oh my god, it works. It fully works. It's just like, yeah, it's just a par 3 near the clubhouse, and
It's
I
gotten
guess
a lot better,
5
I have
times.
to say, because I caddied for a friend of the program, Luke Guthrie, and we made it into the playoff. And it was as
Yeah.
the light was running out, and they just had to. It was literally Bagger Vance. Like they just had to pull like 3 guys' trucks like up to the 18th.
No way.
And Luke was like the best
That's
putter on
sweet.
the planet Earth, like 3 putts in the dark, and he's like, "Ah,
Yeah, I
shit."
just can't read it. Like,
Yeah, he's
oh
like, "I guess
yeah.
you know, we should have come back tomorrow." Like,
Yeah, I'm not really seeing the shades of stuff, seeing the
yeah,
topography with just the, you know. But no, it's like they have a whole, and I walk by, I'm like, yeah, I wonder what those are for. And it's like they really have a lot of their stuff together
yeah,
in terms of these day-to-day stuff. I mean, think whatever you want about the top level Wall Street Journal headline Department of Justice side of the PGA Tour, but the daily ops are like, they're really good.
yeah.
And then just, you know, watching, there's something about going out and saying, all right, I just shot 65 I got 65 to get through the pre-queue,
Yeah.
right? The Thursday pre-queues, you got to go like 5 or 6 red. And then you go another, I think it ended up being 5 red on a tough setup at Brunswick.
Hold on. When did this shorthand 5 red? I've never heard this before in my life. Is this a
Really?
Sea Island thing? Is this what is this?
I don't know. I've heard people calling it red for.
We also just
like,
don't
I
ever
don't know.
shoot under par, so maybe that's.
I
Yeah,
also
you
am
might
never
just
in
have to,
5
like,
red.
We should start
Right.
saying
The,
I'm kind of good at it. I was like 17
Yeah.
black, man.
That's one of. Oh yeah, I think it was when I turned
now 8
pro.
black
That
on
was
the
in like the
front.
onboarding. It was on the onboarding process of turning pro. It's like you check that box
Yeah, now you
to
start
sign up
saying-
as a professional, and then it's like, oh, by the way, like here's your new terminology.
and you got to call everyone.
Um,
You got to call everyone pro as well.
Bro.
Yeah, that's that one's
I know
that one's
about
actually
that
really fun.
Yeah,
Honestly, it seems
playing out
so
there,
corny. for so long, and then I turned pro and people started calling me pro. I'm like, this is awesome, actually. This is really fun. But I mean, if you think about going 11 red through 36 holes, it's like, hey, how about you go play 8 more playoff holes? And it's like, oh, you 3-putt your 8th playoff hole to make like your first bogey of the week. It's like, yeah, you're not playing. Yeah, thank you for your $500 and better luck next year.
Had to be some maybe some feelies in the air about Monday Q's going away a little bit, or
Yeah,
not on the radar.
yeah. It 100% was. I mean, it's just one of those like really cool aspects of golf where on the Tuesday I just tracked down a couple of the guys that I had seen in the Monday queue on the range and just asked them for a couple questions. Like they all had cool stories, right? Like Marcus Bird was talking about just I think I really hope I'm not just crossing streams on all 3 of the guys, but like Marcus Bird had Corn Ferry status and was talking about just working on his body some more and just all the little things that go into making that jump up to being able to play in a PGA Tour event. And then Reed Davenport talking about how he's like getting ready for I think he maybe missed his Corn Ferry card this year and now he's just gearing up for stuff and this was a huge confidence boost. And I feel like there's just all of these stories on the peripheral that you just get from having more people in golf. Let's say that you have 20% of a field are like, wow, that's crazy cool. Let's go write a story about this. It's probably more than 20%. I'm just making up numbers. But if you shrink the field, then you're shrinking that 20% also. And so there's fewer people to write about, there's fewer people to get invested in. And obviously there's the, hey, if you want to be in this field, then how about you just try to be one of the best 100 guys instead of 125? Like playing better tends to solve everything. But thinking about why it's getting cut, and if it's for, yeah, we want people to be able to still play in 5.5 hours without worrying about daylight, and actually we want play to speed up, but we're also just using that as an excuse to protect some guy who is still going to be getting a massive FedEx Cup bonus from getting an extra $32,000 playing the 3M in June because some mule didn't go beat him out. Like, I just don't know if everything adds up to be like, let's just get rid of a whole bunch of personalities on the tour. That just doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't sit great with me seeing how cool that whole scene was.
So I think that's very fair, and I will have to admit, I used to think of it more in regard to like PGA Tour cards, right? Going from like 125 to 100. I'm over here thinking, well, what's the big deal? You're still going to have kind of those same storylines around that 100th card. And, some people will slip in, some people, yada, yada. But I guess it hits home here and you talk about, I should be more thinking of it in terms of like, no, if you get rid of, a significant amount of people week to week in these events, then you're right. Like just the human backstory, the potential for like really interesting things to learn about people decreases. So I appreciate you kind of stating it in those terms because I hadn't really considered it that way much.
Yeah, I mean, it's end of the day, you just have more guys to go talk about and dig into. And you can talk about, oh yeah, we'll just move it up to 100 guys, top 100, and like we're fighting for that number 100 tour card. It's like, yeah, we can start talking about that conversation, but you're also losing the whole Joel Dahmen story from this week. Like Joel Dahmen would be cut if we theoretically just said it's 100 now.
Well, let's go there. I know that was probably one of the highlights of the week too. You're got to talk to him after the round. Were you out there following him at all? What was or what was your interaction with Joel?
Yeah, so I followed him on Friday. They kind of had that featured group together with him,
Zach
ZB, and Wes Bryan, who were I think 123, 124, 125. And then you've got Thor Bjornsson and Berger are gonna jump up, and like it's so none of those guys are safe, right? All those guys are playing for cards, and followed that group, and Joel was the last guy to the tee on Friday morning, and as he was walking by, it's weird, right? I'm like, oh, I've seen a Netflix show and I've listened to him like doing a whole bunch of podcasts. Like, I know this guy. I'm going to be like, hey, Joel, like, we're pulling for you, man. Like, something like
That's
that.
up. Yeah, throw him some knuckles on the way up.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you see him and he's just like the most locked in that he's ever been, about to play one of the most important rounds of golf of his life. And he's like, I have no idea what the fuck this guy is. And like, yeah, no, I'm not going to tell him anything. Like, he's got this. Like, cool. I'm going to let him go. But yeah, you see him walking. He's got his sunglasses on his hat that are just like the side pieces are hiked way up. It's like tilt for lacrosse helmets or something. It's like the intimidating visor look. It's just like, wow, this dude looks absolutely locked in. And it was sub 50 and blowing 25 all day. And he's playing Seaside, which is the tough side of the draw. It's the tougher course that he's playing in the tougher conditions, and he's 1 over outside looking in at the cut, and goes out and goes 3 red on the back at 3 red on the back.
3 red.
And,
I always say, if you can start 3 red, you give yourself a good chance.
yeah, but just watching the whole thing get put together, and I mean, that was so cool. And then I was able to bug him for a couple minutes after the round, which I always think is nuts that he like goes and does 45 minutes of media, and then some dude with a press pass and an iPhone is like, hey, can I like get 5 more minutes of your time before you go back and like stretch and like prepare for the weekend where you keep your PGA Tour card? And he's like, yeah, sure, man. Just really cool that he's giving me the time. But he's talking about how he had this up and down on 11, and then another comebacker putt he made on 13, which were both like 10 to 12 footers. And then on 14, he hits a 4-iron to 15 feet and makes the birdie. And that was just kind of like, wow, okay, I actually think he's doing the thing here. And in the interview after, he's talking about, I wouldn't have made that 15-footer if I hadn't seen those 2 putts go in on 2 of the last 3 holes, which I always just love stuff like that for the guys who are like, no, a 15-footer has an 18% make percentage. Like that's how often those putts go in. It's like there's something else to it, man. Like he saw 2 go in, and if he didn't see those 2 go in, then we probably aren't talking about him. He probably loses his card and goes back to conditional.
Yeah.
But so I mean, that was the Friday story, and then doesn't play great on Saturday, and then comes out today and gives a couple putts, good runs, and then just hoops a wedge for eagle on his 4th hole and is just off to the races. And I mean, that's just the thought of actually doing that, right? You think about it, it's like it's a theory, it's a concept for a while, but then you're in that situation. You go on your 4th hole, you hoop a wedge, and you go 6 under and keep your card. I mean, that's just
6 red.
6 red. Exactly. I was trying to mix it up. I was trying to
Off speed.
But yeah, and then just talking to him after the round today. He's holding a beer, enjoying having his card, like hanging out with his wife and Gino, and signing hats, and once again just kind of comes and talks to me, which, if there's something I'd want to tell everybody about him, is that I think I wonder if he's kind of become a little bit of a parody of himself in some media circles, of like, oh yeah, Joel Dahmen, the full swing guy who took his shirt off at the Waste Management, like that guy's the man, right? Like I loved him on like whatever podcast with my boys and all. Like he is so good at golf, and he is such a just awesome person, and I would hate for either of those to be kind of lost in the shuffle of all of the clippable social media moments. Like, this is a human being that everybody should be rooting for, because the dude just absolutely rocks, and he hits some golf shots where it's like, that was insane. Like, that was so good.
Well, a few quick ones on the way out here. What biggest kind of macro takeaways from just watching these guys, go about their business? You're coming out of the world of college golf, where guys are obviously very serious players as well, but this is a bit of a different animal, I would have to imagine. What were kind of maybe 2 or 3 like takeaways you had from watching the guys out there?
I'd say there's a whole bunch of different swings out there thing. Like, it's true, but every single dude's tempo is incredible. Like, truly just beautiful golf swings to watch. Their routines are super precise and repeatable. Like, they're professionals. They're professional athletes. So they do everything super repeatably. And I think if there's a take that I had coming away, it's that I think that, we think about golf sometimes as guys hit a ball with a bat towards a target. And I really think a better way to think about a lot of golf is that these guys are launching small aircraft with very specific spin and speed and launch conditions. And it's like, yeah, okay, cool. It's like still air, cool. I'm gonna hit it and it's gonna land there and it's gonna stop. It's like, oh, all right, cool. Now the wind's blowing 20 into my face. I'm gonna launch it lower and it's gonna land there and it's gonna stop. And
This
it's just a
flight's got to
very,
take off either way. We're doing it no matter what the weather is. We gotta keep moving
yeah,
these passengers, man.
it's like, yeah, we adapt, we figure it out. I think what really struck me is just how comfortable everybody looked doing everything all the time, which I think you can get into like, should professional athletes be that comfortable playing their sport all the time? But that's just kind of a whole set of rabbit holes to go down. I think the big takeaway is like these guys, it's such a level of consistency that it's mind blowing. I practice on the same range as a lot of these guys, and you think you get it, and then you see it in competition. It's like, wow, like if that's the level I got to get to, it both seems that much more attainable now that you've kind of seen it. It's like, okay, now do that. Okay, it's it's a lot more visible, and you can kind of wrap your head around it a lot more. But it's also like, however good you think these guys are, like I know it's said a lot, but however good you think they are, they're definitely better than that. And the amount of inside baseball that goes into, oh yeah, we can take a swing video anywhere and just the guy's sternum doesn't really move, and his center of mass stays in the same place, and he's got great low point control. It's like, no, like those things are really impressive. And just launching balls perfectly and landing them in the right spots. It's like there's a lot that goes into that. There's just crazy consistency. So
Well, we don't have to get into it now, but I do think when you say should professional athletes and professional golfers specifically look and feel this comfortable all the time, I think is a very meaty discussion. And I certainly would come down on the side of it's more interesting as a viewer when I know that the people playing golf are a lot less comfortable. And I think that shines through in a lot of the majors, and when the conditions get really iffy, and or like just super firm turf sometimes when they lose control of that ball bouncing on the ground. So I do think that's a good insight there.
yeah, I think it's a great point. As much control as they have when the ball's in the air, that you lose it when it's on the ground. Like then it's just kind of up to the golf course. And then yeah, and I guess idea I had, and some agronomy nerd is going to tell me why this could never happen, but into the grain Bermuda chipping is something that you kind of hear about, is like it's doable, but it's definitely on somebody's mind. And I would love to know if it would be possible to just have all of the grain of Bermuda greens, Bermuda fairways, just grow away from greens and towards the tee, so that it's just another thing that you're thinking about of like, I actually do have to pick this. Like the bounce isn't going to help. Nobody's coming to save me. Like if that's just another, I mean, thinking about me chipping and the amount of control that I have chipping, it's a weak part of my game and I'm working on it. But then you go watch these guys just picking balls, and it's chipping really does kind of become glorified lag putting for a lot of people. And it's just, yeah, I'm just gonna make a super easy, consistent move and hit it inside of 4 feet and make it. And like, do you have any hard games? And if people felt around the greens the way that I felt like circa 2022, then I think that there would be a more interesting product in terms of just watching guys be uncomfortable on the golf course.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna have to enlist our agronomy squad to see how possible that is.
Yeah, let us know
Yeah,
if that's possible.
Uh,
Reach out.
Reach out. I love it. Well, Connor, good to have you, man. Thanks for spending the week out there, and thanks for sharing some insights. And best of luck with what's next. What's next on your golf calendar?
Holidays kind of schedule dies down a lot. I think guys are just kind of hanging up for a month. So I'm probably going to try to get down to South Florida to do some 1 day stuff some point in December. And then otherwise, I'm really just prepping for January, February when stuff really ramps back up.
Awesome.
So,
Awesome. Well,
yeah.
people can read Connor's writing at nolayingup.com. I'm sure you'll have a little piece about everything you saw and thought this week. People can look out for that. Connor, thanks for hopping on, man.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
Big, I think that's going to do it for us tonight. We just a couple quick housekeeping things. Be on the lookout for I recorded. I've been podding my face off, man. I did an interview with Martin Slumbers as he goes out the heads out the door at the RNA. Reflecting back on his tenure, a little state of the game stuff. I think you'll enjoy that one. And then got to talk to Luke Donald with my guy TC this weekend about a new film that Ryder Cup Europe is releasing called Una Familia, which is awesome. I had a little Twitter thread about how much I enjoyed it. I think even you, Big, even a cold-hearted guy like you, I think would really, really enjoy this film.
I listen, your opinion carries a lot of weight, but Deej, no offense, I'm going to wait for my guy Richard Brody at the New York Times to review it
Yorker.
before I or at the New Yorker before
Yeah.
I decide whether to watch it or not. But thank you.
What an epic follow he is. Just the hot takes on film. What else? Only other thing to mention from our friends at the shop, we got our Black Friday, Cyber Monday sales. Both run through
Hell yeah.
Monday, December 2nd. You can take 20% off of orders of $100 or more with the promo code Get Involved, all one word. Enter that at checkout. Nest members get a 25% off any order with the standard Nest discount. And any more you want to say about the Nest, Big?
The Nest is cool. Listen, we probably don't do near a good enough job of like promoting it and really giving it color, but the Nest is the first step. If you are in an area and you might not know a lot of people, perhaps you moved, you're looking for just golf games, I truly believe the Nest can be the first step on the path to, finding a golf group. And why do I say that? You can join the Nest. You can get involved in our message board, which is our online community. Through that, you can join a Roost, which are these in-person real-life golf clubs that we have across the country. We have one in the UK. Through that, you can sign up, you can get involved, you can go out and play in events that your Roost puts on, you can qualify for NLU events. There are a number of other benefits outside of just playing golf, but I really do think for those such as myself, when I moved out here to Denver, I immediately kind of got involved with our local Roost here, and that's who I play the majority of my golf with. It's a wonderful thing. But at the minimum, if you buy merch, if you want an extra podcast each month, there are tons of good benefits that come with it.
nolayingup.com/join if you would like to do that. And again, 20% off orders of $100 or more with the promo code Get Involved through Monday, December 2nd. Big, thanks for hopping on. Last thing we've got, I'm going to throw it over to KVV. He's got a little history lesson, a little one for the road, and then we'll shut it down on the back end of that. So Big, thanks for being with me, man.
Sounds good. Happy Thanksgiving.
All right, KVV, let's land the plane here with one for the road. I tried to fill in last week. It didn't quite have the same panache, so we're going back to the bullpen. We got you on a day's rest here. What do we got?
Always happy to come in and be the closer here, the Rivera of such things, Deej. All right, so this week, Deej, in 1936, the USGA officially set a limit for how many clubs you could carry in your bag. 14 clubs. Do you know the origins of the 14 club rule?
I know that, all I kind of know is guys used to have rut irons and like little things to hit it out of troughs and all kinds of different tools. So I would have to imagine they were trying to rein that in a little bit.
Yeah, so part of it is because in 1929, the steel shaft was approved for use in golf clubs, but a lot of players had been playing hickories prior to then, so they didn't really know how those clubs would react, and a lot of them just started carrying like a shit ton of clubs. Like according to a piece that I read
Like
by Mike
redundant
Johnson.
clubs?
What's that?
Like redundant clubs? Like you'd have multiple 7-irons in case one broke?
Correct. Or you'd have a 7-iron that would react one way in the wind with the hickory shaft, or you'd have a 7-iron with a steel shaft. Because there was a little distrust. They couldn't quite feel like they knew how the steel shafts were going to react after being hickory boys for so long.
Okay.
According to a piece I read in Golf Digest from years ago, Mike Johnson was a writer. They like the really wealthy players would have like 2 caddies carrying like 2 full bags. Some guys would have like 30 clubs. In fact, a golfer named Lawson Little, who won the USAM and the British Am, often carried as many as 30 clubs. And this was kind of seen as elitist because it would sort of mean that the well-off players could purchase more clubs than the poors. And this became an official rule in 1938. Weirdly, in the 1938 PGA Championship, Henry Picard was playing a match against Dick Metz, and Metz was 4 down when all of a sudden Picard realized that he had a 15th club in his bag. This is back when the match play used to be 36 holes, and they were 23 holes in. Metz told him, you know what? Forget about it. Who cares? The rules were a little bit looser back then in the day. And Picard wins their match 1-up, right? Metz had a little bit of a rally, but, Picard still wins. And he advances to the finals of the PGA Championship where he fucking wins against Byron Nelson. So I guess maybe there's some weird justice to the whole thing because the club that was in Picard's bag, it was later determined to be Byron Nelson's. For whatever reason, Byron Nelson snuck a club in, or had a club in Henry Picard's bag. Anyway, now the rules are kind of more updated.
By the way, I don't I don't know that you could just be like, nah, we'll just ignore that rule. Don't count that one.
Agree, but that was apparently how it was done back then. They just didn't care. It just was like you could kind of, you know what, let's just play on. So now you have more than 14 clubs in your bag. You can be slapped with a penalty that carries a maximum of 4 shots. That's what happened recently to Joel Dahmen at the Shriners when he realized he had 2 4-irons in his bag. It's actually, there's been a lot of incidents over the years that it's happened. There was another weird incident at the 2022 Houston Open where Mark Hubbard was hating his driver that he was playing through the front 9. So he just put a new driver in the bag on the second 9, believing that all he would sort of do is be hit with a 4-shot penalty. But because he didn't declare his other driver out of play, he got disqualified from the tournament. Minjee Lee actually had to take a 2-stroke penalty earlier this year at the Pelican when she left a training aid in her bag, which was deemed
KVV's worst nightmare there.
Oh God, yeah. How many training aids are in my bag right now, dude? It's just immediately I show up on the first tee and I'm already 3 down. And of course, the very famous incident where Ian Woosnam at the 2001 Open Championship, he comes out and he hits his first shot on the par 3 to 6 inches, and he has a birdie putt to tie for the lead. But he has to record it as a bogey when he realizes on the second tee that he had an extra club in his bag. So it happens every few years to somebody. I found an instance of Jim Furyk in 2009. There's various kind of, instances that just, sometimes people just forget they're testing out different clubs. But the reason why we share this story today, one of the most interesting instances I found was Sam Snead realizing in a World Golf Championship match against Mason Rudolph. So he realized midway through the match, at the 12th hole, that he had 15 clubs in his bag, but he didn't tell anyone. Why didn't he tell anyone? Well, because NBC, rumor was, threatened to blackmail him from the future World Golf Championship matches if he walked off on the 13th hole, because he'd had his club in the bag the entire time. So he would have essentially said, well, I lose 10-8, it's over, I'm done. Right. So he decided amongst himself to do the honorable thing and throw the match deliberately. He just started deliberately missing putts against Rudolph so that Rudolph would still be the winner because he felt that was the honorable thing to do. Well, this was in 1959. And if you can remember, what happened in 1958 was those great quiz show scandals of the 1950s where participants were getting their answers ahead of time on quiz shows. There was a lot of anger about, whether or not what the stuff you were seeing on television was real or not. And whether participants had been given the answers. So NBC, when they broadcast this, decided not to tell the audience what had happened in the match and just broadcast as though it were real. You certainly remember the movie Quiz Show, the Robert Redford depicted this. So when Snead admits to this after the match, he decides to declare him to lose. Essentially, he lost 1 down in the match, throwing it, missing putts intentionally, and then he disqualified himself after the fact. Well, the WGC is so embarrassed by this whole thing that they essentially pull their sponsorship from the whole thing. And it kills off the World Golf Championship series for many, many years as a result of this. And Rudolph is pissed. We always think of Sam Snead as this genteel, good old Southerner, it's always a friendly to peasants and kings alike. Rudolph was basically yo, fuck this guy. He basically said, and this is from news reports in 1960, the way I feel about Sam Snead now is that he'd better have some excuse ready when we play again, I've had enough of his excuses. Before I get on the course with that guy in a match again, I want him to sign a statement saying there'll be no any kind of alibi if he loses. Asked if he would ever play him again. Basically, is just like, you know what? I don't want to. I would rather not play with him ever again. To be truthful, I don't know when he actually first told anyone about it. All I know is what I read in the papers, and to this day, Snead has yet to talk to me about it. My grandfather told me once, if you can't say something nice about someone, just stay quiet. And that's the way I feel about Sam Snead. I don't care to have anything to do with the man, which I was kind of stunned at. That the one other thing I sort of unearthed in this is that the media coverage of this was pretty like angry towards NBC, which I think this might be the first ever incidence of Amsterdam.
I love it.
Where
Brings
we
a
have
tear to my eyes.
people just ripping NBC for not revealing this behavior. We have a column here from the Nashville Banner saying the PGA's mild rebuke of Snead's behavior was satisfactory. A rebuke would seem due to television. A larger rebuke would be assumed due to television. Screen Gems put out a newsletter for release the day after the match describing the Rudolph victory. No mention of a violation is ever mentioned in the letter. The industry, television that is, has another black mark against it. Snead need not be made the whipping post for TV. Certainly, Snead's actions cannot be whitewashed, but there is a feeling in this corner that there is more than meets the eye that has become voiced when it comes to NBC.
Golly. How about that?
Yeah. So there's your history lesson and your first ever incidents of Amsterdam.
I love it, man. I did not picture the game shows being brought up, quiz show being brought up, Robert Redford, even Mason Rudolph. I wasn't quite sure where you're going, but appreciate you bringing it full circle, KVV. What a great way to end. That's quite an anniversary.
We love to bring things full circle one for the road, Deej. Thanks for another great episode.
All right. Well, I hope everybody has a great week. Thank you for listening. Thanks to everyone for hopping on. Thanks to KVV. Thanks to Connor. Thanks to my guy, Big Randy. And we will talk to you guys next week. We got a good one next week. Stay tuned. Watch this space. It's gonna be a fun week on the No Laying It Up podcast. Cheers, KVV. Talk to you soon.